It's the Score North Twin Show.
It's a Trevor Plouffe Tuesday.
Baseball.
On the Score North Twin Show. Last week, Trev, was that your first ever John Boy upfront? Was that the first one you've done?
Yeah, we started to hire all these real business people, so we have to do these real business things, and we did that, and then we stayed the rest of the week. We finished Blitzball Battle 5, which will be on whatever station owns Bally's.
Yeah, right after Twins Marlins, perhaps this week. Let's get it, man. So we have like 2 weeks worth of red hot great Twins baseball to catch up with you on. But you did ask us off microphone because you're a Southern California guy.
Yep.
You were recruited by USC. You, like a lot of people 6 years ago, thought, boy, Sam Darnold, he might be a pretty good NFL quarterback. Didn't know it was going to take 6 years to find the right situation, but yeah, it's been kind of fun for us around here, Coach Trev.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm happy for you guys. Happy for Vikings fans. My football team, the Rams, had a great game this weekend as well. Took
nice
down
comeback.
The Niners. It was awesome. I was in the building for that, so it was fun. No, I remember Sam at USC, and I had gone through a bunch of pretty boy quarterbacks that, Matt Leinart got the job done because there's a lot of people around him. Then you have Mark Sanchez, even Matt Barkley, and then Sam Darnold comes in, not exactly like that pretty boy USC quarterback, but he had all the skills. And I also thought the intangibles there. I liked the way that he threw the ball. I thought he was mobile enough, athletic enough. He was very smart. And I thought he was going to go into the NFL and just kind of be a guy. But, we see this all the time in the NFL. You get put in a weird system, goes to the Jets and just doesn't work out. But now finding himself, in a situation that he's taking advantage of. I don't know. He looks great.
Oh yeah, he looked fantastic. So did you know O'Connell during his time with the Rams through your friendship with Stafford?
I didn't really know him. I definitely, there were some interactions that I was aware of, and Matthew speaks glowingly of him. Really, really likes him. So I didn't know him. Obviously, I knew him on the staff, but not personally.
Okay.
No. Yeah, we just did is he one of the top 5 coaches in the NFL right now thing. If you're wondering where the tone of the Vikings conversations are right now compared to the tone of the Twins conversations.
Different. It's different. Yeah, I love watching football, and I've gotten into it a lot more, as I've become friends with Stafford, but Connell's great. Raheem Morris goes to Atlanta from the Rams coaching staff. He's doing great, and
yeah.
Go Vikings.
Go Vikings.
Go
Vikings.
We can't avoid it, Trev. Coach Trev, we can't avoid it.
No.
I'm sorry.
We're sitting here.
We got to do it.
Conflicting playoff odds reports here. All right, I will start here.
Okay.
So ESPN.com is a little more optimistic. ESPN.com gives the Twins a 51.5% chance to make the playoffs. Baseball Reference is down to 39.9%. The Twins have tiebreakers over all 3 of the teams they are fighting with for the 2 spots. Tigers, Royals, and then the Mariners won last night. The Tigers are actually so we're recording this at 11:30 a.m. Central Time. Scooble takes the mound in less than a half hour for the Tigers today. So I don't know where are you at right now? This whole thing has just been a giant buzzkill the last few weeks. And if they do get in, I don't know how much. They might have to burn Bailey Ober and Pablo Lopez just to get in this weekend. So where are you at with this team right now?
I mean, it's obviously disappointing to watch. I think 5 weeks ago, what were the percentages then?
95.
Yeah, 95%. It's been a slow bleed out of playoff, not contention, but they're out of the playoffs as we speak right now. And I think it's really disappointing for a team that did have a lot of promise, and then injuries catch up, and I think there's been a lot of strange personnel decisions as well. But it all can be saved. I mean, I do agree with you. If they play in Miami the next 3 games, and you should win those games. I thought the Braves were going to sweep them. They ended up taking 2 out of 3 from them in the last series that Miami played. I feel like the Twins have to sweep Miami, and then go into Baltimore and figure it out. It'd be interesting to see where Baltimore stands at that point, if they're going to be full bore, if they're going to be trying to set up their playoff rotation, that would obviously help the Twins. But Detroit looks like they're going to be in the playoffs. They end, I believe they end with the White Sox, or they play them now.
No,
those are basically those are free games. And I think they're 9-1 against them. I mean, they've taken advantage of them just the way the Twins took advantage of them. I said this about the Royals. You know, when they lost Vinny Pasquantino, I thought that was going to be a big thing. I thought they were going to take a step back, and they definitely have. I think since he's gone out, the Royals have averaged less than 3 runs a game. And with runners in scoring position, they've plummeted. It's been really bad for them. So they're kind of like, I think the Twins could definitely like find themselves in the playoffs. And I don't know what the vibe would be like then for Twins fans if they somehow kind of like fell forward, if you will, into the playoffs. I don't know what the vibe would be like. I don't know.
It wouldn't be great. It wouldn't be great, at least at first. So Coach Trev, you played this game, you watch this team still a lot, and you know people who are involved, players, coaches, blah, blah, blah. What is your diagnosis here? Like since August 17th, when I believe the Twins were a season high 17 games over 500, they had won 3 of 4 in Texas. They were on the precipice of passing Cleveland, and I believe at that point would have had the best record in the American League if they had done so. What is your diagnosis of, beyond the obvious stuff, what's your diagnosis of this collapse?
I think it's lack of bullpen depth. I think that goes without saying. The miss at the deadline, not bringing anybody in, that hurts. I think some of the injuries you can point to in the back end of the bullpen. I mean, we did like a position units draft at the beginning of the season. And I took the Twins bullpen. I said, this is going to be one of the best bullpens in baseball. They have depth. They have all these guys, and it just hasn't worked out that way. So I think there's that. And I think nobody has stepped up offensively. Like nobody has stepped up. We've had guys take, Royce is not Royce right now. And it's very, very interesting to like kind of like watch him play and him start to understand like, okay, like not always just going to be the guy. Like you got to figure it out. It really is a chess match. You really do have to make adjustments. You really do have to do all these things that every other person that's ever played the game has had to do. I think those are the 2 biggest things. Nobody stepped up offensively. There's nobody that has really carry the team or can carry the team right now. Or I guess they can, but they haven't. So I think those are the 2 biggest things to me is lack of somebody taking control offensively in the back end of the bullpen, or just the bullpen in general.
The latter part's what concerns me the most, Trev, is look, slumps are going to happen with individual players. We're seeing that with Royce, but for a month plus, like the entire lineup, maybe outside of Matt Wallner, like Wallner's might be their best player over the last month.
And Kyle
Warnick
Farmer
Farmer has stepped up
a little bit.
But they're big dogs. Like Royce has been unplayable. Carlos Santana has been has been struggling. I think the offense and the lack of clutch hitting, which can also happen, that can ebb and flow. But I mean, this is a month plus. It is a grind to score 3 runs right now for the Twins. A grind. Yes. And I think that's what's much more concerning to me, even if this team falls into the playoffs.
It all compounds on each other. You have the offense looking and saying, oh, we got to continue to score because we don't have the pitching that's going to lock people down. And then the bullpen's like, well, we're always in these close games because our offense isn't scoring enough. And it just starts to compound. And when your team isn't working cohesively, I mean, it gets old showing up to the park. I mean, there needs to be some sort of spark, and maybe they thought they were going to get it bringing Correa and Buxton back, but it hasn't been 38 It's been tough.
And the other thing too is you've got, I want to say between Buxton and Correa, they're taking up like 38 or 40% of your current payroll resources. And we kind of do this every year with Buxton. When he's out there, he's super impactful, and even in his current state, he's still one of the better defensive center fielders, and his back got hot for like 2 months. But there's no way you can go into any season expecting more than like 90 games, and then you're not really sure where those 90 games are going to come from. And then Correa, this is the first time where an issue with his chronically injured ankle area has flared up, like the foot, and him expressing public concern about, well, we got to be a little more careful on that side because of my ankle history. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm just sort of like spitting out problems with no solutions here. But I wonder as they go, if they don't make the playoffs here, Trevor, and they go back under the hood, it all starts with, well, what's our budget for payroll? Yes. And that's the biggest conversation. And then how do MLB Pipeline has them with the second best farm system. Do you lean into a youth movement around a couple of these veterans? Do you use those prospects for trade chips to stack veterans here? Like, where would you even start if they miss the playoffs?
I think it's a mixture of both. I mean, right now we're seeing the Tigers just called up Jackson Jobe, and he's going to help them fortify probably their bullpen at this point. And you're seeing teams kind of, bring these guys up. The Mets brought up Acuna's little brother. He's been great as Lindor has been out for them. So you want to be able to draw from your farm system and get some help at times. So you don't want to completely deplete it, but at the same time, if you do have a position or some sort of unit that you have a lot of these guys in the farm system, like you gotta get rid of them. You got to get major league talent, whether that is bullpen help at the trade deadline, whether that is a starting pitcher like they went out and got Pablo. Like they have to be able to spend prospect capital, because what is it really for? It's to help the big league team, whether it's you bring them up or you trade them. Like it's what the minor leagues are for. It's to help the big league team. Nobody cares about minor league championships. Nobody cares about being your power ranking in farm systems. That doesn't matter at all. That is there. That's why they call it prospect capital. It's there to be spent. Whether you spend it by bringing them up or you spend it by, bringing in proven major leaguers, it has something has to change. I mean, obviously health is important, but every team has to deal with that. If the Twins were completely healthy and we had, a full complement of players, I don't think we'd really be in this position or talking about it. But, you do get put in those situations, and they didn't do anything to combat that this year.
Right. Yeah. I think the problem is this. There were some obvious glaring areas where depth was lacked, and they didn't address them, because it's like, yeah, guys are going to get hurt, and that sucks. And also, we are to the point, for instance, with Buxton, Trev, where, okay, he's going to miss significant time. Yes. Almost certainly. The question is when. If they do miss the playoffs, in your opinion, does anything change?
I think they got to look at some philosophies and stuff that they're doing. I mean, the pinch hitting's been, we talked about all the time. And sometimes, you start, speaking with former players and then being one as well, like you understand or at least I feel like there are times where you can go by the numbers and that's what you do. And then sometimes you talk hitting now with people that are in the game, and they try to make you feel almost like stupid about it. And they're like, no, like here's the data. This is what works. This is what doesn't. It's like, well, okay, the data's there. I understand that, but what about, like, are you looking at the player? Are you looking at how he's swinging the bat? Are you looking at, whatever? I think they've really, and I believe Aaron Gleeman had a big article about the Twins pitch hitting. We know about Manny Margot and his 0 for 30 streak or whatever it is. I mean, there are times where I've really questioned that. And I think they need to get back to what's a manager's job? It's to put people in the right positions. You can't always just say righty versus lefty, lefty versus righty. Like, it doesn't work that way. Even in the times when they've had reverse splits, they still do lefty righty, which is like going against the numbers, but they're still doing that. And it's just been, I think that's been a big thing this year, is they have not done well subbing players in and out. They just haven't. It's put them in bad positions where he'll sub out too early, and then later in the game the bench is gone and you're having bad matchups because you went for one matchup in the 5th inning.
Let me ask you this on that note. Like, oh man, and I love analytics, and I feel like I got my start in media as like a baseball analytics writer, so I have an appreciation for it. But I'm going to go on the other side for a second. I think we've gone so far in the other direction, and we've lost touch with feel and human element. What would happen in today's baseball? Because to your point, there's a lot of people in the game that feel like, boy, if you're not obsessed with every little detail of data and analytics, then you're a boomer, and you should get out of here, and your opinions don't matter, right? If as a player or a manager, if you just completely went in the other direction, if you had a team that said, we're going to let our manager manage off of pure feel. We're going to have our hitters Don't even look at numbers. Just literally go up, watch the pitcher warm up, and go completely old school on it. What would happen to an organization if would they just be terrible like the White Sox?
I think they'd fall behind. I think they'd fall behind. I think it's like anything in life. It's a balancing act. Like you need to have, I think for scouting and player development, I think the numbers are excellent. Like you have to, you can go through any minor league ballpark, check the StatCast and get these guys. And I think organizations really have to identify what they do well. Do we develop pitching? Do we develop position players? Obviously, you're trying to do both, but when you get these pitchers, what can you help? Can you help with velo? Can you help with pitch shape and arsenal adjustments, stuff like that? Like you have to figure out what you do well and then kind of like lean into it. That's why Cleveland's been able to do what they've done with a bunch of, quote unquote, no-name guys. And the Brewers are the same way. Like they know what they do well. So they scout that way. And it seems like, hey, they're making these weird pickups, but they're understanding. I get this guy in my system. I can make him go from here to here. I don't think the Twins have done that just yet. So I think there needs to be a happy marriage between the two. The feel thing means you've been around the game. You understand, like, dude, this guy's not swinging the bat well right now. He's not seeing it well. Like, you can't always say the numbers are going to turn around. Like, there are just times where they're not. And I think, going back to my last point, like, taking a guy out in the fifth inning is not something that I would love to do. Like, it just depletes your bench and puts you up in bad matchups for the rest of the game. I think there are times where you just got to let your lineup that you put out there play the game and let these guys get some reps instead of every single time you're playing a game or you're on the bench being like, I'm going to be taken out in the fifth inning, or I'm not starting today, but I know I'm coming in the fifth. It's just, it creates an atmosphere of uneasiness at times where, and you could say, hey, you got to get used to it. This is the way we play the game. But doing that over at 162, having that, I'm not going to call it anxiety, but there is a little bit of anxiousness to it when you're playing on a team like that. I think that is something that could be looked at. It's not National League ball. There's no National League ball anymore. There's a DH. You can set your lineup and let it go and then save a pinch hitter for one time throughout the game. But I think constantly reinventing your lineup, constantly trying to get the perfect matchup that the numbers say, I'm not about that. It doesn't translate for me.
So what would you say, Trev, that the Twins do well at? What's one thing that you do think that they do really good at? Is there a certain area of the game with some type of development or some type of culture? Would you say there's something that, hey, this is one thing going forward, actually we're doing a really good job on, and what can we continue to do well at that job? What is that thing for you, I think, that stands out?
It's really a good question. I'm not super in deep in the minor leagues and kind of, who's running what and all that. I know it seems like they've drafted well as of late. That's kind of how you get you guys in the farm system. Trades have been mixed. So talent evaluation, I think they've been pretty good at. They haven't really, I guess I can tell. I was gonna say they haven't really developed much starting pitching, although that's kind of, Fest has come up and done a really good job. They traded for Joe Ryan, traded for Pablo Lopez. They developed Ober. I don't know. I don't know if they do anything particularly great. I guess can you guys identify something they do particularly great?
If you were to say, if you were to go around baseball, like Cleveland, and say, all right, what's your elevator pitch? You got 10 seconds to tell me what your franchise is. Cleveland would say, turning random dudes into awesome pitchers. Cleveland right now has 4 relievers that have pitched in 70-plus games with ERAs below 2. Yes. So Cleveland would say, and by the way, they in their rotation, Shane Bieber made 2 starts out for the year. They were going to lean on Alex Cobb. He made 3 starts. So 40% of their rotation, McKenzie, and they would say they would probably just boil it down to one word: pitching development.
And that's been the case for a while for them.
And look at what
they can't develop outfielders. They can't. Yeah. They've needed an outfield that could bang for years. Twins, I guess, have been able to do that.
Twins, left-handed hitting outfielders against right-handed pitching. That's what we do really well.
Look at what Detroit's done.
Yeah,
they literally dumped at the deadline, came up with a new philosophy, which was Skubal and the rest of a bunch of guys.
Yes.
And have gone on this great run. So that's and I spent a lot of the afternoon yesterday, like going through this stuff. Like what the Tigers have done is nothing short of miraculous. Like to come up with that idea, because you're basically dead, right? Flaherty's traded. You're basically like, okay, it's done. They came up with I think the day after he was traded, his spot in the rotation came up in Detroit. They used an opener and they started this sort of, okay, we've got an ace and then we're going to mix guys in, mix and match. I mean, that is some impressive. I mean, it starts with Hinch, but all the way to the front office, that is some impressive manipulation of a situation that looks like it should be lost.
Yeah, no, I mean, they've been obviously, they thought they had their starting pitching figured out in Detroit. Then that did not come to fruition besides Skubal. But they've been able to find guys to, I mean, Bo Brisky or Tyler Holton, whoever's going to be the opener, then someone follow behind him. They figured out, I don't know if it's a sustainable formula, if I'm being honest. Like, I still do believe in starting pitching, but they figured it out, and it looks like Cleveland's kind of done the same thing. And the Brewers have kind of done the same thing. Like, none of those teams have a full slate of not even 4 starting pitchers. So they figured something out this year. There's no doubt about that. And I think if you look at, I always look at the Guardians and the Brewers for teams I think they know who they are. So I don't know if the Twins really have that, like, this is what we do. As you asked me that question, I'm like, that's a good question. I'm trying to think about what do the Twins do really well. And
they might have to ask themselves that question in a few weeks, right? I mean,
I think so. I mean, you kind of got to lean into something.
Who asked that though? That's my question. The Poland's going to ask that question.
Well, I would think if in a perfect world,
look in the mirror.
If you're Joe Pohlad and he made the trip to Boston and he sat there I think he was there for the doubleheader. And he's watching that thing play out. Like, if you're him and you are interested in pushing this thing forward and not just chalking up to a bunch of excuses, I think you get people in a room right away and you say, hey, that was one of the biggest collapses in franchise history. If they don't make the playoffs, that was one of the biggest collapses in franchise history. Do we care? And if we do, what are we going to do about it? And you start to unpack it from there.
But I don't think that the Pohlads are that kind of owner, though.
Right.
They're not. I like Joe. I think he's a really nice guy, and I think has the right. I like him. I don't want to sit here and bash him. I just don't think
he's a good guy.
That's not the way they want to run the team. They want to say, hey, we're going to hire people that make those decisions. And that's kind of what they'll focus on is, have we hired the right people to run it, and then kind of let them do their thing. And I don't really have a problem with that. So the guys that are running it, Falvey and Levine and Rocco's got to get in there, and you have to start thinking, can we make some adjustments for ourselves? I feel like that doesn't happen very often. I feel like I think Rocco's set in his ways. I really do. I kind of have to figures if things, it hasn't worked out this year. Even if they make the playoffs, it hasn't really worked out.
And ideally, Trev, what you and Phil just said would take place, like all of it, like Joe would call him in and everybody would meet. And I don't have any faith that this team works like that. And the thing with Derek is, I just don't sense like he's a real, I'm going to look in the mirror and hold myself accountable. I feel like the Twins feel like what they're doing is right. And that's what concerns me, because it's clearly not. But I don't know that they can change that, or that they will. And quite frankly, when it comes to the Pohlads, I think if they're going to, I think they are more likely than to call baseball ops in to fire a person. Like, I think that they are more, I don't know that they're going to have the type of session that Phil just talked about, which would be the ideal perfect world.
So, I mean, as we look at the season, on a whole now, I think the biggest misses were the trade deadline, right? Like that was kind of it. That was the biggest thing, because everyone goes through injuries. Theme.
That is a 7 or 8 year theme.
So who's to blame for that? I think you talk the reduction in payroll obviously is probably number one. So that's a Pohlad thing, and they have to give the okay to go do that. And then I think as a front office, whoever is making the end all decisions has to be a little bit more ready to deal. And you can't just hug the prospects. I mean, you got to be able to give something up. You can't be afraid to make a bad deal, because in the moment you're trying to make your big league club better. That's all any fan could ask for is, hey, did you try to make the team better when you had the chance? If you freaking get fleeced in a trade and somebody all of a sudden develops like that and becomes Fernando Tatis Jr., dude, like, I know that sucks. Like, the White Sox are going to be wearing that one for a while, but like, you got to try. You can't be afraid of that. So I think, there's a couple things. I mean, obviously that, to me, that was the biggest thing this year was you're there. Everything's going right. There are some glaring holes. Trade deadline comes and nothing happens. That's tough.
Yeah. It's been 8 years of this front office, or 8 trade deadlines.
They've been already.
Yeah, they've been in contention for a playoff spot or in contention for something bigger in 6 of the 8 deadlines. And only once have they really made like an impactful set of moves. And it was 2022. That was the Tyler Mahle. So that was the one that kind of blew up in their face. And I wonder if they look at that and say, see, well, this is the one time we went and made an aggressive move and it blew up, and then you guys all ripped us. And I'm not saying that's what they're talking about behind the scenes, but like philosophically, they do not make big moves at the trade deadline over the course of 8 years.
And I would tell Falvey and Levine that, that deadline didn't work out for you. And guess what? Nothing killed you. Like, nothing killed you from that trade deadline outside of the fact it blew up in your face. Spencer Steer might be a nice player. The very next year, you end your playoff losing streak. You have your most successful season in 20-plus years. That trade deadline can happen, and it's not going to shipwreck you.
If that's the trade that derails you from making any other trade, that's crazy, because, look, Spencer Steers, he's been an okay player. Like, I like him, but, like, it's not like he's turned into a superstar right in front of your face. It's not in your division. You barely even see the guy. Like, you can't be held back by something like that. You can't.
I think the problem, though, too, is, and this gets to the heart of the real issue here, is I feel like we also, at the deadline, were gaslit, because I'll go back to, if you guys recall, the whole thing was prices were too high. We tried to get Kikuchi. Look at the price for him. But when it comes to the bullpen, you basically spit on a bunch of guys that could have helped you with depth and quality depth. And that's where I think, and I am willing to bet that the poll ads did not say, oh, you're trying to get the third reliever from such and such a team? No way, he makes too much. So I feel like they were trying to sell us on, well, payroll is not going up and we can't take term, and so Kikuchi is not going to be our guy. Okay, I get that. I accept that. But you couldn't get, to your point, Trevor, any depth. You couldn't get yourself. I mean, you went and got a guy from Toronto whose arm was evidently hanging by a thread. Like, come on, we're not that stupid. We're dumb, but we're not.
Say his name. His name is Trevor Richards. Put some respect on his name.
I'm done saying his name. Never say it again.
That was tough, because you bring in a reliever that throws like 91 miles an hour. That's just.
And now you got the guy from Baltimore who came in.
Oh, Cole Irvin.
I
played with Cole Irvin in the Phillies organization. I like him.
I'm sure he's a great guy.
Got a family, probably.
I'm sure you get
the moves. The moves have been. They've been weak. And like, you need. When are they going to go for it?
Right.
Like, that's kind of my thing. Like, how many more years do you got? Like, that's a long tenure already. I didn't know it was already 8.
Yeah, well, 17.
When are you going to put the pedal down?
Yeah, and 2019 was. I mean, that was the inflated numbers year with the bouncy ball for a baseball. But everybody played with those same conditions, and the Twins broke the major league home run record. They had the best power hitting team in baseball history, and the moves at the deadline were Sergio Romo, who was like a good 6th, 7th inning guy, nice little slider, and then Sam Dyson, who pitched 10 times and has never pitched in Major League Baseball again. And that's the best power hitting team in the history of baseball. And you're running out, was it Randy Dobnak in Game 2 at Yankee Stadium?
Uber driver.
But that's your like, you don't get those years very often where you win 100 games, you got this crazy power hitting team. And right now you got Correa, you got Royce Lewis. I mean, this is a window for you. if you think those guys are core pieces to a championship team. So
yeah, and there was quality relief available at the deadline.
Yeah.
There was.
Yeah.
Didn't come our way.
Yeah. But hey, tonight, Twins
Marlins.
Marlins. Let's go. Let's get it.
I actually do think they make the playoffs. If I'm giving a prediction, I think that they do make the playoffs.
Those tiebreakers are massive.
Tiebreakers are massive.
So what?
Exactly.
Baltimore, Detroit, Twins.
I think the Royals are going to be left out. I do.
Wow, dude. Wow.
They've choked, or they've.
That was a
It's been-
coronation like a month ago, man.
Yep.
That looked
It's
like
been bad, but no, the Vinny thing, I knew it. Because that's a top-heavy lineup. They were so good with runners in scoring position, particularly him. And you take that out of your lineup. That's why when people say, "Oh, the RBI, it's circumstantial. It doesn't mean anything. What's clutch?" It's like, no, like you have guys that can do it. Not everyone can do it, and we're seeing it with the Royals. Like I said, I think it's 2.95 runs per game since he's been out.
Oof.
You just played. You know nothing, man. Okay, just because you played in the big leagues, you should see my house. I've got all these computers and statistical things.
Where's your
I know
math
what's
degree?
what. I
Where's
know
your
what's
math
what.
degree?
I still don't understand. If you
plays
want to be
baseball.
a numbers guy and just go straight up by the numbers, right? That's kind of what we've seen. Like Rocco wants to be that guy, but he won't recognize reverse splits. That's the one thing I don't understand. He's sending right-handers up to hit against left-handed pitching when the left-handers have better numbers against righty. I'll never understand that.
So he's trusting his own right-hander splits against lefties versus the left-handed pitcher
Yes.
splits against right.
Essentially, yeah.
Is that
He's told-
him, or is that a philosophy from
I'm
above him?
I think it's a
very
little.
odd.
I think it's more of that, the latter. I think.
Okay.
If they get Corbin Burns even this weekend, which I don't think will happen, but more likely in a potential playoff series, like Corbin, he's told me specifically, like Corbin Burns, it's the opposite. They will throw the righties against Corbin Burns and not load up against the lefties to hit him.
Will they?
But will they? He told me
That's
that
what he wants
in,
to
June.
do.
Right.
What do the guys upstairs want to do, Declan? No, Rocco, this is a wrong lineup. We'll give you a new one.
Yeah, that's you see that. I mean, there are lefties that get righties out all the time, and if you stack that lineup up, all of a sudden, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't know.
It's good stuff.
good therapy session here today, and
We're getting the playoffs. I know it.
All right.
We're either gonna be having a funeral on Trevor Plouffe Tuesday next week, or we're gonna be setting the scene for.
There'll probably be a game being played while we're recording. They
'Cause
start
it would be
early on
Tuesday,
that,
right?
Potentially, yeah.
that wild card. Let me see what they got. Hold on.
We might have to alter our recording
We're gonna have to
schedule.
alter our-
It'll be-
yep, no question about it.
What?
yeah, have
what
they
day is that?
posted it'd be
First game? Oh, they don't have the times out yet.
No, but
They got to wait to see who the teams are, right? You're not.
gotta book a flight to Houston.
Dex might have to book a flight to Houston. We might send him out
I
there.
might not know
Houston,
until
have fun there. I hate
Sunday
Houston.
afternoon.
I hate that town.
You gotta get a seat for that mustache, or
yeah, true.
You know, it's funny. Declan was like, you know what? Before the season, I'll shave it when the Vikings lose their first game. Yeah, they're playing the Giants, probably win week 1.
It's
But
a
then
good
the 49ers and Texans coming up.
dude.
It's a great stash. I'm telling you,
It's a
you
stash.
need to go handlebar. I agree
No.
with that person.
No,
Rally fingers,
no,
man.
this
Don't do that.
Speaking of knowing your place when you have to drive in runners of scoring position, I know my place in the batting order with this mustache. Okay, I'm not going out. No,
Don't twist it up, please.
Yep,
That's
nope, nope, not
Killjoys.
happening.
Dude, that's a Tom Selleck. That's a good-looking Don Mattingly.
Legit
man.
mustache.
Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful.
Declan Goff PI. I can hear it. I can see it now.
Oh man. Well, he's Trevor Plouffe from John Boy, and you can find his baseball podcast, Baseball Today, and also it's Talking Baseball and Baseball Today, right? I got those two right. All over the Apple charts too, and yeah, John Boy, YouTube breakdowns all over the place. Just a great platform if you haven't checked it out. And his Twins insights on the Score North Twin Show every single Tuesday. Appreciate you, Trevor.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see what happens. See what happens in the next 7 days.
Oh, I can't wait.